Defense ministers from 17 countries are meeting in the Danish capital Copenhagen to discuss ways of helping Ukraine defeat Russia in a conflict approaching its sixth month. Now, earlier this week, the Pentagon pledged a further $1 billion worth of military assistance. But there are fears European enthusiasm for helping Ukraine might dwindle if Russia further limits gas supplies in the winter months. Meanwhile, there is confusion today over what caused spectacular explosion at the Russian naval base in Crimea. Arise News chief correspondent John Cookson has the story.
In terms of direction for the war in Ukraine, these are vital weeks. Western defense ministers are meeting in Denmark to bolster support for Kiev, knowing that if Russia can hold out until winter, some nations might reduce or withdraw their backing for Ukraine. And the gathering comes 2 days after explosions rocked Russia's Saki naval base in the Crimea, destroying warplanes and exploding an ammunition dump. Yesterday, a Ukrainian spokesman said Ukrainian special forces carried out the attack. Today, a confusingly different story for skeptical journalists.
The answer is very clear and short. I think that Russian military guys in this airbase ruined the very simply known rule. Don't smoke in the dangerous places. That's it.
You think this is simply a Russian soldier smoking at an airbase that caused those massive big explosions?
I tell you that it's a very dangerous place. They have not to smoke there cigarettes.
So Ukrainian forces were not involved?
I answered to you. Thank you.
From this satellite image, Western military experts say 24 Russian warplanes were destroyed, although some appear intact.
I can't comment on this particular event yesterday, but overall, it would be legitimate if it was an attack by Ukraine. It would be in accordance with international law.
Speaking ahead of the Copenhagen meeting, Ukraine's President Zelensky said the time will come when Russians will flee from the Kharkiv region, Donbass and Crimea, and everyone who can help with that must do so. And he's expected to get some more military help and pledges from the Copenhagen summit, like these British armoured personnel carriers recently arrived in the Donbass region, and more attack helicopters, anything to put Ukraine in a strong position if and when both sides decide to sit down and talk peace. John Cookson, Arise News.
And John joins us now for more. John, thank you so much for joining us. Wonderful report that you sent there. Now, what aid can Ukraine expect from the Copenhagen summit?
Hi guys, great to be on Newsday as always. Well, we're just getting details in the last hour of some of the promises and pledges out of Copenhagen. First of all, we heard that the Danish government is pledging $120 million worth of military and other aid to Ukraine. The Brits are promising more rocket launchers, multiple rocket launch systems for use in defensive tactics for the Ukrainians, and also missiles with a range of 80 kilometers. The Brits already poured billions of dollars into helping Ukraine, including a promise and something that's in effect already to train 10,000 Ukrainian soldiers. And I speculated yesterday that, in fact, if that was a special forces attack on the Russian naval base, that possibly some of those Ukrainian forces were actually trained in Britain. They could well have been. So what we're witnessing at the moment is a big show of support from Western nations to Ukraine. It's part of what's called the Ramstein format, and it's the fourth of four meetings so far to bolster Ukraine and to go back to the pledge that was made in Ramstein that 50 countries throughout the world had pledged to support Ukraine to the end of the war. That was their pledge, and this meeting is just another milestone along the way.
Now, John, what's the mood in Europe for the continuation of this war?
On the surface, and as you can see from those images coming out of Copenhagen today, we're all in it together. It's gung-ho. We're supporting Ukraine all the way, and there's no deviation from that. That's what they're saying in public. Privately, I think it's probably a different story. If the Russians got round the peace table, they would perhaps like to replace the Zelensky government with a puppet regime loyal to Russia. And there will be some in Europe who think that's not a bad idea, because they're coming under, politicians throughout Europe, and especially in countries like the UK and Germany, are coming under huge pressure at home to do something about the spiraling costs of oil and gas. And with the winter coming, my goodness me, there's going to be blackouts already being planned for some cities and towns in the UK. So the Ukraine war is impacting hugely on the cost of gas and oil. And if the war ended, of course, those costs would come down. So you can see the political pressure that's building hugely on Western governments, including those in the UK. To give you for an example, the UK government is meeting with electricity companies today to do something about the cost of spiraling cost of electricity. An average family will pay about $1,200 to $1,500 a year for the electricity. That's set to go up to $6,000, throwing millions of Brits into poverty, if that's indeed the case in January, February of next year. So, as I say, huge pressure politically building. And to a point, these guys meeting in Copenhagen, defense ministers, they came kind of out on their own here. They're used to unlimited budgets, and they're not directly responsible to the people in the same way that a prime minister or president of a country would be. Guys?
And thank you for that, John. What can we make of the Ukrainian defense minister saying that the explosions at the Crimean naval base were caused by a cigarette end?
I nearly fell off my chair when I was looking at that footage. I mean, for heaven's sake, I mean, does anyone believe that? Look, the Zelensky regime made it very, very clear yesterday that it was Ukrainian special forces responsible for that stunning attack on the Russian naval base at Saki. And then for the defense minister to come out today to say it was a discarded cigarette end is just, well, it's laughable. However, I mean, the Russians have always said it was an accident, so who knows?
Who knows?
But speaking of the Russians, even though, of course, that's the subject, the Russians are asking the UN for help over a nuclear power plant. What's that all about?
Well, we talked about this already this week. This is the nuclear power plant at Zaporizhzhia in the south of Ukraine. It's been bombed and rocketed both by the Ukrainians and the Russians. It's under the control of the Russians, but it's manned by Ukrainians. And of course, there's an obvious problem here. Why would anyone in their right mind bomb a nuclear power plant? I mean, the risks there are absolutely huge. The Russians, we use the plant now as a military base. They've got a lot of military equipment there. There are 500 Russian soldiers there. I suspect that they don't want nuclear inspectors poking around, looking under and around corners. So what they've done is they've approached the UN to try to get a meeting through the UN Security Council and maybe get UN inspectors to go and visit the plant and see what's going on. They're a little more easily perhaps manipulated, and Putin does seem to have a reasonable relationship with the UN Secretary General Guterres. So this is an interesting development and a good development if inspectors from the UN can actually go in and see what the heck is going on there.
I want to say many thanks to you, John Cookson, for your time here on Newsday.